Hey, thank you guys for joining us. I'm gonna go ahead and do the intro well, although I'm not as
Yeah,
not
go
as
ahead.
good
Let's
as
start, and then people will join.
yeah. I'm not gonna be as gifted as Ace for you guys who are kind of with me, but I'll do my best. Ace has the voice and everything else. So wherever you guys may be joining us, thank you. We're gonna do a fantastic AMA. So we want you to ask questions. Hopefully, we'll be monitoring X and YouTube. This is our first go at using the Riverside product. So expect some hurdles on our end and some bumps and bruises, but we hope to get some great questions and further everybody's kind of understanding and comfortability with, what's going on with Flare and the FXRP minting and the process. So, my man, Whale, you want to take it away, brother?
Yeah, of course. I would like to touch upon like what is FXRP, what is DeFi, and why you should take the time to learn it. Because I feel like I'm gonna repeat this over the stream, but I feel like a lot of people think that DeFi is something that you just click and then you become a millionaire just because. And I think that that is a very mistaken. It's a very mistaken view of what investing and DeFi is. Up until now, crypto has been that you buy crypto because you saw it on a YouTube video or a friend told you, and then you don't have to do absolutely nothing, just hold. And I think that DeFi, it's the next step. I think that if you wanted to be a carpenter, then you would need to take a lot of classes and learn a lot of skills to be able to be a proficient carpenter and actually make money with that. And I think that if you want to be a banker, be your own bank, then you need to learn the skills to be able to profit from those skills. So the fact that it's hard, the fact that it's abstract, does not mean that it's impossible. It just takes some time to learn and understand, and you need experience. That's the one thing that I always say. You need flight hours. A pilot, he might have his license, and he might spend hours and hours reading all the textbook on the school, but until he's on the air, and then one day he loses an engine, and then one day a bird crashes into him, and one day he's landing a bit short, like until he goes over all of those hurdles, then he will have the experience to overcome them. And DeFi is the same.
I got to
So
ask something
as
real
of
quick.
now, go ahead.
Uh, you may not know this, but do you know I actually have my pilot's license? It's not current now, but I actually I have my regular pilot's license. I had my instrument license. I was learning to be a flight instructor, actually. So whether you realize or not, like everything you just said is 100% accurate, and something I actually played around with a lot in my younger years. I got quite a few flight hours.
No way. I love that. I didn't know. It's crazy. So yeah, I think that for now, I'm going to start calling DeFi a craft instead of investment because it is an investment, but it is a craft to learn how to make money with your investments.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that 100%. I mean, if you want to really make money with it, there are a few, like what you would say, like simple ways of doing it. And I know we'll touch on that. Like, my dad is not interested in DeFi, but he definitely wants to earn money. And so I helped set him up on Oxenflow. He loves it. I mean, he just loves it. He sees the compounding interest because the cash is compounded daily, but then he's also getting our flare or the our flare rewards. So it's like the both the best worlds for like the non-sophisticated investor, and there are some great options out there and kind of avenues for your for a more simplistic approach for sure. But if you really want to be your own banker, and you want to be involved in DeFi, you're 100% right. It is definitely a craft and a beautiful craft too. Like, I mean, we've talked about here recently. Like, I'm just in awe of like how this whole thing is unfolding for me as I kind of use these tools we're going to talk about. So, yeah, no, I think that's a great term of craft instead of investment. You got to invest to be better at your craft, anyways.
I mean, like everything, if you hold on, let me open the chat in on YouTube. All right, there is. I think that like everything, if the less time you spend perfecting your craft, the less profitable that you're going to be. Like you might have the skill as a painter, like an art painter, and then maybe one day your aunt will buy one of your paintings and you'll make a few bucks. But if you really want to make a living as a painter, then you really need to spend the time learning and practicing, and it's going to take hours and hours to perfect that craft to the point that you can become like you make good money with that. So
I
any
mean,
skill in the world, yeah, any skill in the
I,
world, if you want to become good at it, you need to practice. And of course, there are certain things like staking or delegating, you make some yield, but don't expect to become rich overnight with doing little effort. And I think that that's the other part. DeFi is not something like we have to stop thinking that DeFi it's not a meme coin that you put in some money and then tomorrow you cross your fingers and then it goes to the moon and then you killed it. I feel like DeFi has to be serious. It's like a serious financial instrument that you need to learn, and you have to create systems that help you long term, not something that you just do one day and that's it.
Prime example of my arbitraging of XRP this last week, where I actually should have made a couple hundred XRP, and actually because of the way I went around it, incurred several slippages and several heavy costs where I actually lost XRP in the arbitrage situation, which was doable. Like, even at my experience level, which is not even that great, but not that low, there are things you might make a mistake on thinking, well, it's fine to do it this route, but it actually is not.
For sure. Everything takes time, and I think that DeFi is not as crazy as it looks, but it's definitely not something that you do. But I mean, coming back to the same thing, is there really anything in the world that will make you good money that it's extremely easy to master? Like the answer is no. Like anything that you want to master, you need to spend time learning and practicing and having experience so you can manage. I think that DeFi, at least for me, this is the best thing that I can spend my time on, because I live in a place where half of the year we have tourism and half of the year we have zero income. Like there's no economy where I live. So if the tourists are not here, there's no way to make money. So for me, it's like, okay, I could be spending my time, I don't know, learning how to, whatever, clean houses, or I can spend the time learning DeFi. And by me perfecting this craft has allowed me to make enough money to go by with my expenses. My overhead is pretty low, but still, like this can be scaled to any level and any range that you need. Of course, the more money you have, the more skills you have, the more income you're going to have. That applies to anything. Like if you want to build a business, you're going to have to fail many times before you can become successful. Like those stories that he tried it once and then he became successful, like those are not real. All right, so I would like to go over the F assets page, just kind of give you an overview of what's going on since the launch. Right now, I don't have any F assets in my wallet here. I have some on Spartex. I will show you the number of mints.
Hey guys,
5K
while he's
mints.
is going over that real quick, please take a moment to got any questions, write them in the comments below. We'll be watching on X, as well as like, share, and repost this. We'd love to get more eyes and people to better understand what's going on with FXRP and the Flare network. And if you've followed us long enough, you understand, like, we believe the core concept is education. We want people to come here and be educated, making wise decisions with their money so they feel comfortable and want to stay on Flare. We don't want them to have a bad experience. So please like and share and comment.
Yeah, you're rogging really bad, bro. All right, so somebody's asking discount for the DeFi den. So I think we have a promo going on. Steven, what do you think? All right, I'll continue showing F assets while Steve figures out his connection. This is the page. Here you can see what's the circulating supply of F assets. Right now we have a 10 million cap. Next week we will increase to 20 million, which is going to be pretty exciting. I'm very curious how fast that lots are going to come. The first 5 million, they filled up in 4 hours. The second time it filled up in 90 minutes, the first cap increase, and then it was super fast. So that means that there's a lot of demand for FXRP, which is pretty exciting for the FXRP users and also for the Flare holders. The total rewards have been 3.37 thousand XRP. There's different ways that you can make money by participating in the F assets page. So if you go to pools, you can deposit some Flare in here. And then this helps with the collateralization of the F asset system. So the agent has to go one-to-one in XRP. So for every XRP that gets minted, there has to be a one-to-one collateralization. And then the community can add, and the agent's collateral plus the community collateral should add to 2.2 times the total collateral for the F asset system. The more value that you see here, the more secure the system is, because that means that if something goes wrong, there is enough collateral to cover those problems. So the more value TVL, the safer the system is. And then right now, I don't have a XRP on this wallet, but if there were lots available, you would connect both your XRP wallet and your Flare wallet, and then you press mint, and then it's a super easy process. I have some videos on my YouTube that you can see the whole process. All right, so I have a question. How can you tell which pool is best? Do we still get delegations and flare drops? Hey, Odessus, thank you for the question. As far as I understand, because this has to be Flare, not wrap Flare, what I understood is that your delegation plus your Flare drops will be added to your collateral pool. I need to confirm that, but that's what I understood. So yes, you still get delegations and Flare drop rewards.
That
Now,
is
how do you
100%
know which
correct.
one is the, yeah, it's correct, yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. So how do you know which one is the best? Here's the deal. You make fees every time there's a mint. So because now we have caps, there's a lot of mints in a very short period, which give you fees. But then the rest of the week, you're not making fees because there's not that many mints. I don't know how much actually you can predict. This is only going to be a problem the first weeks after we have increased and there's always available lots. Then people will be minting and redeeming, and then we can have a better estimation of what is the APR. But basically, what you want to see is that the TVL and mint count. I mean, there has to be like a balance between the amount deposited and the amount of mints. Because if you have more value and more mints, then that mints get distributed against the more people. So it's kind of hard to tell. I feel like, for example, AU has the most mints, but also has the most value locked, at least in Flare. So it's going to be kind of the same. As we move forward and this gets more stable, I will try to figure out a way to calculate the reward rate, and I will be sharing that stuff. All right. Now, what can you do once you have FXRP? All right. What are the risks involved? That's a very broad question. Depends. Like we were saying earlier, there are certain activities that are higher risk and there are certain activities that are lower risk. For example, if you want to delegate to the pools, that is a pretty low risk operation. And by pretty low, I do not mean zero risk. I mean, if you're in crypto, you need to have some skin for risk. I think that is overstated. Like, there's no way to be in crypto and be completely conservative, because if that was the case, then we would be in the banks. Now, having said that, there are things that are riskier and there are things that are less risky. So the collateral pools, I think that's a pretty low risk move, but then you need Flare or stablecoins, not XRP. Go to Kinetic, you can lend your XRP. If you're only lending your XRP, that is also lower risk. If you're borrowing against your XRP, then you have to manage your risk as well. But basically, my short answer to Milites, I'm probably butchering your name, is if you do not understand the risk, then you're at risk. Like, that has to be like something super simple to understand. If you don't understand what's the risk, then you're at risk. All right. Let's talk about borrowing and lending, because I see that there's a lot of confusion here. If I go here, I can see that the supply APY is only 0.05. So why is that? Because let's understand. I'm going to try to, I've been talking with people that are outside of crypto, and I've been trying to explain what decentralized finance is. And I think that is an important thing to consider. When you are doing DeFi, in reality, you are providing a service, and then you are getting paid for providing that service. How much that service is used, that determines how much you get paid, right? So when you are borrowing and what you're offering is to put your assets in a community pool that then allows other people to borrow against those assets. The more people are borrowing your assets, the more they're paying. The least people are borrowing your assets, the less you get paid. So if I go, for example, USDC, you can see that from 2.37 million lent, 1.6 million are being borrowed. So that means that the utilization rate is 68%, or a little bit less, 67%. That means that, hey, look, 589, lucky number. That means that the higher that people are using your assets, the more that they're paying you. Now, If you go to SFLR, for example, the supply is 0.07. This is minuscule. Like there is a very little APY that you're getting by lending it. But that is not the end of the story, because in this case, I lent my SFLR, which is receiving FlareDrops and staking rewards. So that's, I think it was like a 40% APY last time I checked. And then against this capital, I'm borrowing money. And then with this money, I have entered a couple liquidity pools. So I have this USDT 0 CUSDX pool. I have this FXRP USDT 0 pool. And then I have on Enosis, this other pool. So all of these pools are giving me yield. So I'm not lending my assets for the APY that I get. I lend my assets so that I can take capital against it and then enter different DeFi positions. Because if I go, for example, here, I have Raffler and USDT 0, right? If I'm entering in this pool, right now I rebalance today. I moved the price a little bit because I feel like we have found a better range. I was at 0.2 to 0.3, so I moved it 2 cents on each side. If I'm in this pool and the price moves up, then I am selling my flare as the price moves. So I don't want that, because if I'm long flare, I want to be able to keep my flare for price appreciation. So what I do is I go to Kinetic, I lend my flare, so 100% of my flare is here, and then I have borrowed money that then I enter in a liquidity pool, and then this is my cash flow position, and this is my treasury bag. I feel like there is, so for example, when I rebalanced earlier today, I claimed maybe $6. Those $6, I converted them into SFLR, and then I deposited here. So the cash flow that I'm getting from my liquidity pools are being used to buy more to my treasury bag. And that is how I approach it, because this pool, when I entered, let me show you, I have the tracker here. Yeah. So right now, this pool is giving me 94% return. I just updated it today. So my initial deposit was $104. Right now is worth $146. And then my impermanent loss right now has been minus 0.23%. And if I add all the fees that I have claimed lifetime, minus the difference in price between holding and being in an LP, then I can see that my total P&L has been $41. So if I have $146 working, well, actually 100, and I've made $41 up to now, then I'm 40% up in that position. That is insane. So this is the calculation that we have. This is, by the way, the DeFi Tracker Pro app that we're building. We've been improving it every single day, and there's very exciting things to come pretty soon. But here you can see the performance of your pool. As you can see, I have been active for 94 days. And yeah, I mean, in 3 months, I've made 40% of my value that I entered. This is pretty great. So why am I making this? There are two aspects. One is the incentives, the reward flare incentives. And number two, the fees that our people are using to pay. When I was talking about borrowing and lending, you are providing the service that is providing capital for other people to get access to your capital and then do something else with it. When you're in a liquidity pool, the service that you're providing is that people can go and then swap their assets back and forth in a decentralized way, in a decentralized exchange, as opposed to having to go to Binance or Coinbase or Bitso or whatever exchange you want. So you are getting paid for this service, and that is where the yield is coming from. All right. You were asking about ISO markets. ISO market means isolated markets. And that means that this market does not put the whole system at risk. Because FXRP is a new token. FXRP is not XRP. FXRP is a representation on the Flare network of XRP. So because it's new and there's not enough paths to liquidate in case there's a problem, then Kinetic has created an ISO market. So then if something goes wrong, then this is the only pool that is at risk, not the whole system. I am sure that at some point in the future, once the market matures, then this market will become part of the primary markets, and then you're going to be able to add the capital that you have into your whole primary markets.
What tokens make up the primary market right now?
Yeah, so if you go, you're in Kinetic. If you scroll down, you can see primary markets. And right now we have Flare ETH, that is the staked ETH on the Flare networks. SFLR, which is the staked Flare on the Flare networks. USDC, Bridge USDC. USDT is being deprecated. So this one you cannot lend or borrow anymore. And then we have USDT 0, which is that replaced USDT. And then we have Wrapped ETH, which is also bridge from any L2 or Ethereum chain. Then the ISO market for FXRP, you have FXRP and USDT 0. You can lend and you can borrow against it. But you can see that the caps, you can see the borrow cap has been reached. So that's why right now you cannot borrow against your FXRP. But if you have some SFLR and you want to participate on XRPFi, you can lend some XRP or some Flare, borrow against it, and then you can enter a liquidity pool between FXRP and USDT 0. That way you're not putting at risk your XRP, but you're able to cash flow that XRP position. So it's just, when I think about DeFi, I like to lock my values in terms of dollars. That is my point of reference, not of how much I would have had if I had held, but how much those $500, $300, $100,000 are giving me in performance. That's why if I go back to the tracker, I can see here that this is the current value. I don't care how much Flare I have or not. What I care is that I started with $100 and now I have $146 plus the fees that I have claimed, which has been $15 up to now.
That's awesome, man. So on the flip side, guys, if this is highly interesting and you're struggling with it, make sure you like and reshare our space. But also we have the DeFi University uh, or DeFi University Pro that you can check out to learn more for sure and check out our courses.
Yeah, so this is the page. This is like a Patreon, but it's our own program. And then here, if you join the tier 2, well, if you join the tier 1, you have access to all of these courses that we're updating all the time. It has tutorials. It has like in-depth of DeFi, the mindset that you need, borrowing and lending, AMMs, everything else. And if you go into the tier 2, then you can see we have like this community where we are constantly adding questions. People are asking questions and we're helping them. We have weekly calls that you can join at any time and ask questions. It's a really great place for you to increase your learning and to grow and learn this craft.
And I don't know if Whale has put it out there or not yet, but I'll go ahead and put it out there. We do have a special right now where the first month is free if you use the coupon code DeFi when you're getting ready to check out. And then as well, on top of that, we're offering a 50% off one-on-one calls. So if you get ready to do that and you're going to schedule one-on-one calls after you've joined, you can do that at 50% off using the promo code coach. So those are the two promos we have launched just to kind of, give value, let people test it out, and try to help as much as possible. Like I said, education is where we're starting. We think that's the most important part is a strong, educated community will help Flare grow long term.
All right, I will put the promo code on the chat. So yeah, you get 1 month free access to the den. You can see all the videos. You can ask us questions, and then if you decide to do a one-on-one, then you get 50% of the first call. So which one is which? DeFi coach? Is it together or is it separate?
So DeFi is for signing up for the university, and coach is for the one-on-one calls. Pretty simple. You're getting a coach, you type in coach, and it works. I was talking to a guy who reached out to us the other day. Coaching is really good. Like if you're just super scared of pushing the buttons and want to actually sit down and do button conversations and in-depth, portfolio conversations. We have the weekly calls, which again, is a Q&A. So it's a lot better for like general questions and processes. I mean, we've covered arbitrage, liquidity pools, and several different varieties of that. So there are multiple ways to do it. And we also have a third tier if anybody's interested in that. And that is where we discount the one-on-one calls. So it's like $268 a month, but now you get two calls a month for individual coaching plus your 4 calls. So it'd be like 6 calls. And again, it's just to try to help. We want people to have the ability to get where they want to and help them if they want it. We have a variety of different options for people all the way down to $25, which will just get you the courses to being more hands-on to being extremely hands-on.
So somebody's asking, Daniel is asking, what do you think will happen when flare drops are finished? S-Flare won't be that attractive. I don't know. I can't tell for sure. I don't agree with you, Daniel, because the fact that you have S-Flare, even though the reward rate will diminish, really S-Flare is no different than Rapflare. The only thing is that you don't have to be claiming and adding that value to your collateral. If you are doing a strategy like I am, where I'm lending my assets, even if it's going to be growing to a lesser degree every month, ultimately that value of my staking rewards are going to be added to my value. So I want to have a collateral that it's always increasing in value against my debt. So if I have S-Flare growing at 5% and I'm borrowing at 10%, then really my only difference is that 5%. I feel like people are going to be confused at some point with S-Flare, but I feel like S-Flare is here to stay, and I don't think that it's going to go away because they are releasing Firelight, the staked XRP. I don't know exactly when that's launching. Somebody said that they needed a little bit more capital in the Flare networks before they can launch. My bet would be that within the next couple of weeks, but I could be wrong. Staked XRP is not going to be giving you 50% per year. So maybe it has 4 or 5 or 10%. And then it's going to be the same. You have that value added to your collateral, and then the value of that asset is giving you a yield. And then if on top of that you can borrow against that asset and put that to work somewhere else, then that is yield on yield.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's two things, right? So the flare drop stop, which also helps the network in general, because that's a lot of tokens to be dropped on the network every single month. And that's kind of like keeping the price down, right? And then you hit the nail on the head whereas, S Flare gives you, it's a liquid staking token. It allows you to do other things with it. So if you just had Wrap Flare, then you put it on a delegator and you can't do anything. If you went and got staked flare, which is the same as S flare, you got to lock it up for a certain period of time, and it's a minimum. Like 50,000 is the minimum. You got to lock up for a certain number of months. So you can still do S flare, but then you have no flexibility with it. So S flare is going to be here for a very long time. It's not going anywhere because it allows you to do more with your money. It's the next evolution of that, in my opinion. So uh, that's just my thought on it. And there's a big advantage to the drop stopping finally, because that's going to stop the keeping the price down as well.
For sure, the inflation of Flare is going to reduce
That's
quite
the
a
word
bit
I was
after
looking for.
the Flare drops end. So Hugo has said before that when the Flare drops end, it's going to be pretty hard to get by more Flare. And I think that that is good for everybody. So I don't know exactly what's going to be the behavior. I guess it depends on what the overall market is doing. But I think that after we pass that turbulence, it's going to be a positive thing for Flare, absolutely. Because right now, maybe making 5,000 Flare in 1 month is not that crazy. But after the Flare drops, making 5,000 Flare in 1 month is not going to be that easy. Like you're going to need to have either a lot of capital or a lot of skills. Avi is asking, what would be a good pool to sit in when Firelight is released? I think that the Flare FXRP staked XRP is going to be a great pool. I don't think that that is going to be giving out like massive amount of yield, but I think it's a pretty safe because either way, you're still in XRP. So you're trading between one and the other, but you're not trading, like you're not selling your XRP for dollars. Everything, like usually the more risk, the higher the reward. The lower the risk, the lower the reward. That's why being in the Raffler USDT zero pool is giving much higher yield than the Raffler S Flare pool.
I mean, and then you don't have to worry about, the asset's pretty much correlated too, right? So you don't have to worry about swapping one asset for another. So, it's kind of like having Rat Flare, Flare pool. Like if somebody, no, not Rat Flare, but, if somebody wants to change between the two, you're helping them, but you're at low risk of the asset, one asset going volatility, one going down.
For sure. So I think that that's going to be a pretty nice pool to be. It's going to be low risk, and then you could even increase your like I said, if the market conditions are right, you could lend your FXRP here or your staked XRP, borrow against it, buy more XRP, and then put that into the FXRP staked XRP pool, and then your position gets increased. This, of course, depends on market conditions. If you believe, and this is not something that I can tell you, this has to come back to your each individual decisions. If you believe that the market is going to go up, then you need to have a crypto asset that is going to go up in value with that volatility. And then you want to more or less lock in your debt value in a fixed way. If you are thinking that the market is going to go down, then you want to lend a fixed collateral that is not going to be going down with volatility. And then you want to borrow an asset that you have to pay less to pay it back. So right now, if I think that the markets are going up, then at some point I will need to sell much less of this capital to pay back my debt. If I think that the markets are going down, then I would borrow SFLR, convert to stablecoins, and then use those stablecoins to buy back my Flare and pay back my debt at much lower prices.
So, and my thought
So
on
one,
this is like, I think a Doge, right, where it is a very volatile asset, but also still kind of like a meme asset, where at the top of its price, it'd be interesting to borrow Doge because it'll come down eventually very well and be able to pay it back less for sure.
yeah, I mean, that's another thing is that you can short the market using DeFi. So for example, let's say that right now I'm like, okay, I don't know if Flare is going to keep going up. I have 57,000 S Flare here. I could borrow 10,000 S Flare, sell them. If the market goes down, then I can rebuy the more S Flare, keep the difference and pay back my debt. And then if the market goes up, then because I still have the borrow asset here, I can just withdraw and then that would have been a take profit. So that's what I mean. It's just like crypto, that idea of just like, oh, you buy, you hold, and then you sell. Like those days are over. And the more I understand DeFi, the more I understand how complex the mix of strategies they can be. I want to talk about another pool that is really great and I actually love it. My recommendation, guys, is the more managing that you're willing to do in your DeFi, the more you can push it. So if you're willing to sit down in front of your computer every day and be paying attention, then you could go down to 170, maybe 160. My rule is I never, ever, ever go below 150. And that means that still like maybe it's a 30 or 40% drop down before I get liquidated. But like that's my rule. You need to have your own rules based on your own risk management because DeFi is all about managing your risk. If you don't understand the risk, you're at risk. But one thing that I did is here, I showed you, I have this position, I have the FXRP pool here. And as you can see, I've gotten some FXRP and some stable coins because people are buying and people are selling. But then I have a larger position on USDT0 CUSDX. So if the market goes against me, I can just withdraw this liquidity that is in stable coins. This is not affected by volatility as much and pay back like a third of my debt. So then in that case, my health factor would increase considerably. So that is also a great thing that you can do because nothing in DeFi is all or nothing. It can be a mix of many different strategies and each strategy can have several levels of risk. And that's the part that I've been saying. Learn to play, learn to understand how this dynamics works. And one beautiful thing about Flare in particular is how cheap it is to learn. You can start with $5. I mean, I want to show you, I have this other account that I use for some of my videos. As you
Yeah,
can
while you're looking
see,
that up,
I
I was
have
gonna.
$3.38 lent. I borrow $1. And then here I have $3.84 in this pool. And then I don't know if I have something here as well, maybe. Yeah, I have $1 of FXRP USDT 0. So all I'm trying to say is that the fact that you don't understand it, I would not recommend that you run away and be afraid and ignore it. My recommendation is choose a number that it's okay for you to learn with, that you might lose if you mess up, but that you won't regret the rest of your life. I was talking with a friend. Mentally, it's exactly the same in crypto. It's the same thing to send $1 than to send $1 million. But mentally, it's not. Like, even if you have done it many times, once you start sending larger amount of money, the risk is not the same. So in my case, it's like I have done it so many times with small amounts that when I have to do larger amounts, I feel much more comfortable because I have done it many times. Like this is not something new for me. I'm not moving $1,000 for the first time. I've sent $1 so many times that doing it is not a crazy thing for me to implement.
Yeah, I was gonna mention on when you were talking about earlier is like the goal of it also is not to have all your eggs in one basket. And there are so many ways to go about this. I can promise you, Ace does not go about it the same way Well does. And then neither of them go about it the same way I do. Like I am super heavy in certain projects versus they're heavy in other projects. I mean, the beautiful thing of this whole ecosystem is the variety of options. And that is what, you know, the XRP community, the Doge community, the Bitcoin community, a lot of these people are really missing. And even though ETH has variety, the cost to play is so high that it doesn't. Like you just don't, like, you can't move $5 around on ETH. You know, you have to do it entirely different and complex. So, you know, this ecosystem has variety. You should never be all in on one particular model. You should have a very balanced approach with it and a plan. It should be planned out. Your plan can evolve. I can tell you, Whale's plans evolved since we met a year ago. My plans have evolved, and it's just an amazing product as long as you take time to learn it.
For sure. Yeah, guys, any other questions? We're going to post this video on my YouTube so you can watch later. I hope this was helpful. I have tons of videos on my YouTube. Like, let me see.
Also, guys, be sure to check out DeFi University Pro. If you want to bring that website out, well, that'd be great. We have DeFi 101. It's a good 10 or 12 videos to kind of get your feet wet. Doesn't cost anything. And again, we have, like, he's on our website or YouTube channel here, tons upon tons of interviews and info and all different types of things that we've gone through because we've talked to devs, we've talked to Hugo, we've talked to Thanos. I mean, we've talked to a gambit of the ecosystem, and all those conversations are there and accessible. If you guys want to catch up on it, for sure.
Yeah, guys, so this is the YouTube that we have. I have tons of videos like how to on-ramp and off-ramp. I would recommend using Base, Arbitrum, or Polygon to move in and out from exchanges. If you use Kraken, you can send USDT 0 directly. I show you how to do limit orders. These two videos, guys, I think that you are really going to enjoy it. Watch them and try to understand because you need to shift your mindset. Literally, I really hope that those ages of just speculation are over. I think that they hurt much more. Like, even though we all want 1000x tomorrow, I think that those hurt more than they actually help. So we have tons and tons of videos. Next week, we're going to have this People Fear What They Don't Understand series, which I think that they're going to be super fun. We're going to have a CDP, that's a collateral debt position backed by XRP, coming out in a few weeks. That's going to be pretty cool. We have the do's and don'ts of FXRP minting, the ranges, everything. This was a great conversation with Hugo and Thanos from Darren from Enosis. This was a pretty cool conversation that we had with the guys from Web3 Matters about building our tracker and using AI and vibe coding. I have some content in Spanish. So, I mean, this kind of comes up as the ideas I get from creating content. And then if you go to the school, then we have everything sorted out so you can have like a step-by-step learning process. So most of the content that I have available on YouTube, not everything, but most of it, it's available here. It's just that here it doesn't have a structure learning plan as we have on the 10.
So, you want to bring up that website real quick so I can see our Flare Forward University page?
So this is the DeFi University page. You can see all the information right here in DeFi 101. You can watch some videos that give you over like the intro of DeFi, what is it about. So if you're not sure, I recommend that you watch these videos. And then we are creating some DeFi resources. This calculator, I need to update it. And then we have the reward flare. So for example, if I go to TipJar and then scan here, you can see this is read only, but I can see how much reward flare I have claimed over the months. So this is pretty cool. Please check it out. What else do we have? We have a bunch of interviews that we have done with different builders from the Flare ecosystem. These are also available on our YouTube. And then you can book interviews with us if you want. If you have a project, we can talk about creating an interview with you and sharing with the community. And then we also have the one-on-ones. And like I said before, if it's your first one-on-one, you get a 50% discount for your first call. It's a 1 hour with either Ace, Steven, or me. All of us can have a little different topics that we are excel at teaching at, but you can reach out to any of us and we're all going to help you. And then that way we can help you like navigate and start your questions and everything. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, if there's no other questions, I have to prepare for another call in 10 minutes. So I think that this was a pretty cool video. I will update this in the YouTube channel in the next few days. I hope you have a great weekend. And yeah, never stop learning, my friends.
Peace.
Take care, guys.